I also want to mention that it's very easy to blame VOCs on old stuff from the 1980s. I mean, I lived here in Bethlehem actually in the early 1970s. I remember the chief whose family owned the landfill. I remember all those things, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, we can blame it all on past things, but I guess this brings me to one current question I have, which is whether or not it's in the past, as we put more and more weight on what's already there, we're going to be forcing more and more of these toxins out into a liner that will fail. And from what I understand, and I haven't had time to actually study the DES website, but from what I understand, there's a substance called bromide that they put on top of the landfill. Is that correct? To detect leakage, correct? They spread bromide. I understand that once again in the last year and a half, the bromide levels, which if there's a leak in the liner, they rise beyond background level in the test wells that are around the landfill. I understand that the last year and a half, and particularly the last year, that those have again doubled and are outside of what's expected, in fact doubled what's outside of what's expected in the background, indicating again more leakage, and this from within the landfill, since the bromide is coming from within the landfill. So, two questions about that. What does DES do about that? And secondly, when there are violations, can they be fined at a corporate level that might pay for some remediation in the future, rather than $1,000 slap on a wrist that a corporation can, that is an eyelash for a corporation. I mean, $1,000 slap on the wrist is a private citizen sort of fine in a certain way. You know what I'm trying to say? So that's the two-pronged question is, what about the bromide, and what about reasonable fines when there are violations? Thank you very much.
I guess I'll start by trying to address your question on the occurrence of bromide and is that indicative of release. I think we're still trying to iron that out. I think some of the theories or some of the information that I'm new to the project is digesting is that the superficial leaks, or from the transfer of leachate to the pumping to the trucks or through the piping, is what you're seeing in the monitoring wells. And so that effectively it has bromide in it, the leachate. So it is really difficult to sort out where it's coming from, and I think that is part of what we're tasked to ask happen from the facility. Sort out, what is that? What is that coming from? What is that? What's the cause? And I can't sit here today and tell you that we clearly know one way or another what it is. We have investigations. We haven't found it in superficial soil. They're doing the upgrading of the leachate, the pipes and the tanks to try to address that. And I don't think that question is finally finalized, but the answer to that is final. So hopefully that helps.
And the fines? And I didn't mean remediation. I mean to protect us against what's going to happen years down the road when clearly bad things are going to happen here.
In regard to fines, if there are violations that are related to something that gives us concern about a leak or something like that, our primary focus is to get it investigated and determine what the cause is and to remedy it. On the issue of enforcement, that's always specific to the facts and the circumstances and what provisions of the law might have been violated. Anytime we do an enforcement action, it's done through generic. This is an administrative fine, which is done by the department. If it's done using a civil suit, basically, that's done by our Attorney General's office, and they have a large role in how that is both addressed and what their whether it goes to court, the courts decide. If it doesn't go to court and it gets settled, it's generally the call made between the party and the Department of Justice. And so it's very hard for me to talk hypothetically about enforcement. Certainly, hypothetically speaking and generically speaking, if we're involved in some kind of enforcement action, it can be an opportunity as part of that enforcement action to set funds aside for the betterment of the particular facility or the problem that's involved.
I guess the one final question I have is the whole issue of asbestos, and to me it's not just asbestos, it's all the other toxins that are in there. I happened to watch the last select board meeting on Channel 2, or one of the recent one that was on last week, I think, and there was a gentleman, the Bethlehem select board, and there was a gentleman who, during the public comment section, talked about how he's a contractor of some sort, and how when he would go in to do basement furnace contracting or something in basements, he was talking about. And he said, you know, I'd go in and I'd say, well, I can't do that because there's so much asbestos around the pipes down here, and so I can't do that. And he said, the people would call him back the next week, and this was a frequent occurrence during the time that he was, you know, before he retired. They'd call him in the next week and all the asbestos would be gone. And his point was, well, you know, people stuff it in there, they take it down, they stuff it in their trash bags, they take it to the landfill, and, you know, no one knows this. So I think it's a fair assumption that everything that gets excavated in terms of trash and waste is going to have asbestos and other things, paints, and, you know, who knows what toxins in it. The other thing I think that's important that I would like to know is, I heard someplace that if there is less than 1% of a load that's brought into a landfill that's asbestos or hazardous, you actually don't have to report it as being hazardous waste. Is there any truth to that? That there's some sort of threshold as to what makes something hazardous and what makes something not?
Yeah, no, there's no truth to that. I mean, there's no unanimous.
All right, well, that doesn't diminish my comment that I think there's all sorts of stuff all the way through there that we have control of.
Well, if you may be referring to the definition of asbestos containing material, which is anything 1% asbestos or lower. Is that what you're referring to?
Possibly. And I'm sorry, I just had one more comment about the thing that Mr. Fiorentino brought up about the date, which that was new information to me too. And once again, I think from an ethical standpoint, we're looking at a corporation and its profits for people all over the country and all over the world, who, yes, they are the applicant, but we're looking at individuals here. And I just think individuals should be, the people who live here should be bent over backwards to accommodate their concerns.